So, The Walking Dead is now being added to Dead by Daylight, and that's pretty cool. I've seen the show, and I think for the most part, it's a pretty good watch. Aesthetically, I'd say the universe fits nicely into DBD. I mean, we already have one franchise all about zombies, infections, and all that stuff in the game, so what's one more, right? I think it's pretty cool that AMC's TWD is finally in the fog, and it kind of makes me want to rewatch the show now, which we'll see if I actually do. However, if it were that simple, we wouldn't be here, right? Unfortunately, this upcoming chapter and the updates surrounding it has garnered a bit of a negative reception, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Today, I want to unpack the entire update coming out with The Walking Dead and explain why I have grievances with a lot of the choices behavior has made here. As much as I rip on behavior and criticize what they do, most of the time I feel like I give them a lot more leeway than most people. I'm a lot warmer on the game because I've seen how much it's grown over the years, so it's harder for me to get mad over some small things here and there. However, this chapter has a lot of weird decisions in it that I really can't wrap my head around. From some of the odd balance choices surrounding Survivor stuff to the odd buffs they've given some killers to the first new Survivor item we've gotten in years, there's a lot to talk about. I guess I'll move through these patch notes to give my thoughts on everything we've got in store. First off, we have the new survivors, Rick and Michonne Grimes. Well, I guess just Rick is here for now. Apparently Michonne is unavailable on the PTB due to some technical issues. I, for one, would love to know what those issues were. I think maybe she was just too badass to be added or something. I'm so goddamn curious. I mean, survivors are just reskins, so I don't know what the deal is there. But regardless, it's kind of embarrassing, isn't it? Anyway, we still have Rick and both of their perks to talk about. His skins are pretty nice, and I hope when they're both released live, they have some voice lines. I'm sure they will, right? Anyway, they bring 3 teachable perks each into DBD, and they are interesting. Well, after a long time, we finally have our Party Palette perk in the game. If you've played the Masquerade event, you already know what this is adding. Fragile pallets are pallets that, when dropped, break. Okay, I mean, we saw this coming. As long as it doesn't take too long to do, it should be fine. I mean, party pallets are pretty weak, but can be fun to bait the killer into. As long as it doesn't have some stupid requirement or some— Jesus Christ! What the hell? You're asking players to search through 2 chests just to be able to spend 8 seconds putting together a party pallet that they might not get any value out of? Who in their right mind is going to use this? Nobody. The most use this perk will ever see is in Chaos Shuffle, where survivors accidentally get it in their loadout. I mean, maybe if the perk didn't have such a stupid activation requirement, people might throw it in a build, but I can't see anyone choosing to use this over, like, anything else. Party pellets are already pretty bad, as it sort of depends on the killer falling for bait just to get use out of, and perks like Enduring make the whole thing obsolete and useless. It's just too much to ask for a rarely effective option. Maybe if it activated every time you healed a survivor or something, you'd have a lot more options to make it work, but I don't see anyone choosing this perk over something else. I get that they might be worried about the problems the Twisted Masquerade event has, where Swift teams can be really annoying with the pallet saves on party pallets and things like that, but this is just too far in the wrong direction. I think giving it a better activation requirement, it would be okay, but in this state, I don't think people are ever going to use this, even if the effect is kind of cool. I tend to like altruistic perks. I think they can bring a lot to the table, and I love helping out teammates that need it. Come and Get Me is a perk that lets you hide the scratch marks and pools of blood for 15 seconds when you activate the perk when within 24 meters of your injured teammates. When you activate it, the killer can see your aura for 5 seconds. It's a self-sacrifice sort of thing. While normally I'd really enjoy that effect, I think limiting the effective range to 24 meters is going to make it way too situational most of the time. The only scenario I really see this being helpful in is if the killer is looking for an injured survivor and you just happen to be nearby. Most likely, if the killer is chasing the injured survivor, you won't get a lot of use out of this unless you, like, use the perk and then body block, I guess. I don't know. I could definitely see it coming in clutch at some points, but I don't expect it to be too popular. I might use it on a build or two, though. I mean, it could be worse. Behavior. I thought we were kind of done with the teamwork perks after we realized nobody chooses them. No? Okay, I guess we're doing this again. Look, the problem with teamwork perks is that they actively require teamwork. Most of the time, the people that'll only get value out of these are Swift teams who can coordinate and work together and are just gonna prefer running stronger perks over these ones. Toughen Up requires another survivor to stun the killer in order to hide your scratch marks, pools of blood, and grunts of pain. But here's the thing, right? If another survivor stuns the killer, it's most likely that the killer already isn't on you, making this perk a little redundant, right? Am I the only one who thinks that? The fact that your teammate has to stun the killer in order to activate it is just a weird choice, and I don't understand why that's the requirement it has. I'm gonna be so real, I don't think anyone is gonna use this perk. It's just not good. So those were Rick's perks, but now we have Michonne's perks, which are a lot more interesting in my opinion. After healing one survivor, you can recover from the dying state when reaching at least 25% recovery progress. You are then broken and go down after 30 seconds. This is really interesting. I like the idea of this perk a lot, actually. It's like getting a second win where you pick yourself up, can maybe help a teammate or put additional progress on a generator or something, and then go down 30 seconds later. It's pretty cool from just a concept standpoint, and I can actually see it coming into use a lot. Again, this is all PTB, TBD stuff, so we'll see if it's problematic later, I guess. But I don't see this perk getting too annoying considering that you just end up going down a little bit later. I don't know, I think this perk could be a lot of fun. I could definitely see it getting annoying against a good Survive with Friends team, as the communication there, as well as the combination of other perks might make this really frustrating to deal with, but I guess we'll see. But conceptually, I really like it. I think it's a very clever design, and I want to see it, kind of get some use. It gives a better alternatives to some other boring perks. Last Stand gives you the opportunity to stun the killer with a fast vault when they're within 2.5 meters after spending 60 seconds in the killer's tear radius. Once you use it though, the perk is then disabled for the rest of the match. This is a perk I don't think I can fully grasp the strength of yet. Again, it mostly benefits the players who can communicate to their teammates because it can be used to stun the killer while they're carrying a survivor. Other than that, I don't see how you'll be getting a lot of use out of it. There are certain situations where you'll find yourself benefiting from this, like I did on the PTB occasionally, but I think this is one of those perks that will require a lot of testing. Regardless, the 60-second tear radius activation and the fact that it can never be used again will make it hard to use, so I don't think it'll be the end of the world. I'm just worried about those occasional circumstances, Again, it'll take a lot of testing, a lot of experimentation, but I don't think it has the potential to be too problematic, but I guess we'll see. Hey, would you look at that, another teamwork perk. This one is a bit more useful than the other one given that you are actually the one that activates it. This means it's much more in your hands whether or not you get value from it, because having a teammate activate a perk like this is stupid. Instead of benefiting you, it gives your injured teammates endurance when within 24 meters and shows the killer's aura for 10 seconds. This, of course, only activates when you stun or blind them. This one is definitely better made than the previous one, and it really just makes me feel like behavior got around to some of these perks and we're just like, yeah, just switch around the effects, it's fine. The lack of feedback for this perk is what makes me think a lot of people won't use it, that and the fact that it's a teamwork perk, but I can see situations where this might come in handy. I don't think it'll be super popular, especially when Aurella's perk came out with the protection hits giving survivors haste, which is way better for many reasons, and this one just isn't nearly as good. Okay, so those were the perks. I like 3 of them, but just because I like them doesn't mean they'll be particularly good. I mean, one is a funny meme vaulting perk that I'll use from time to time, which has potential, but is pretty situational. The other is my funny meme screaming perk that can help survivors, but again, requires specific circumstances to get value out of. But I do see come and get me being useful. And the other is conviction, which does worry me a little bit. Most of the time, it'll only really affect people who slug, but I can see this being a problem against really coordinated teams, which, to be fair, is always a problem whenever something strong drops. I guess we'll see if it ends up being a problem, but as I mentioned before, I like it a lot conceptually, so if it needs a little change or two, it won't be the end of the world, I think. While we're on the survivor stuff, I guess I should talk about the fog vials, huh? Well, I guess we all saw it coming back during the 2v8 and the Haunted by Daylight event, I think it was, where new items were added that were effectively smoke bombs, and when Behavior announced they'd be adding a new base item for survivors to use, I think we all figured out it would be some kind of version of that. So now that they're here, are they any good? Well, they aren't great for the most part. You won't get a ton of value using them in a chase. I found that they're actually a bit more useful when used from a distance, sort of like a line of sight blocker. If you pop it right in front of the killer, they'll most likely have no problem tracking your sneaky ass down, but if you use them on a wide open map, you can prevent the killer from seeing you far away. Of course, just by using the smoke bombs, they kind of know you're in the area, but they're still useful for that. If anything, you'll want to get some good distance on the killer, and maybe you'll be able to get away thanks to the lack of scratch marks, auras, and audio kerfuffling. However, it's still pretty easy for the killer to see through, so it's kind of whatever. However, if you use the potent extract add-on, they become absolutely miserable. I've had my entire screen filled with a white blanket because a survivor dropped one of these, and it's extremely disorienting. Most of the time, fog vials are pretty ineffective, but depending on the map and certain add-ons, they become really annoying. That definitely needs, changing or something. Well, I like the concept, and I think they'll be a lot of fun. The fact that they have infinite uses and such a short cooldown could definitely lead to some problems. Maybe make it so every use is 25% of their total charges, so you get 4 total uses of them or something, but then again, like, other than the visceral add-on, I don't know if they're really strong enough to justify that, so I don't know. I really think these need another look, and don't even get me started on the fact that they stack and the implications that leaves for Survive with Friends squads. I think it's also worth mentioning that I do like both the map and key reworks. I think they're pretty cool, and it'll definitely do a lot to increase the amount of people that use them. I know I definitely prefer seeing them over the 100th toolbox or the 1 billionth medkit. Good on you, Behavior. It definitely could have been worse, but why are we buffing built to last, huh? Who at Behavior HQ is like, yeah, that's gotta be better? I'd like to know. Not for any particular reason, but I'd like to know. Anyway, Survivors weren't the only role that got some changes this update. Let's go over some of the killer stuff. For some reason, Behavior thought Pyramid Head needed some updates. Okay, I don't really understand why, but sure, cool. Pyramid Head had some problems and, maybe they gave him another look. Most of these changes are fine, but why did we think it was a good idea to buff Pyramid Head's Rights of Judgment duration? The worst part about going against him by far is the fact that he just holds down his power and zones you for free. If you drop the pallet, he hits you with the power and you die. If you don't, he cancels the power and you die. Pyramid Head sucks to go against for that reason, so why did we decide to buff how long he gets to hold that for? I mean, seriously. Sure, his movement speed has decreased a bit, but you barely notice that change in the actual moment. It just feels as bullshit as it did before, and now even worse because he can hold it for longer. I don't understand why this change was made. I think it's fairly obvious why Pyramid Head gets a bad rep, and the idea of them doubling down on this problem just boggles the mind. It just makes me angry because it feels like a total lack of understanding on Behavior's part. I don't want to get too into the add-ons, but the whole visceral one that breaks pallets is very stupid because it just doubles down on the whole hold power forever thing. The other ones I think are fine, but this change in particular with his duration for holding his power is just bizarre. I don't understand where that came from. That definitely needs changing. Next up, we have Clown, who isn't a great killer, but one thing he excels at is dominating in the 1v1. This kind of makes up for his lack of map control. If you get downs quick enough, you don't really need to cross the map instantly, right? That's how the game works. Most people just throw down the purple bottle and forget the yellow ones exist, so Behavior tried to correct that in this patch by making the purple bottles obsolete. Cool. Now, instead the Clown just gets to solely rely on his antidote, which makes him move with 12% haste, which now has a shorter activation time, now moves faster when reloading, and finally reloads quicker. Now, instead of the survivors crashing out because the Clown slowed them down so much that they couldn't loop, they get to crash out because the Clown is moving at 12% haste basically whenever he wants to. Maybe this was done to give him a bit more map control, but either way, it makes him like 10 times more brain dead. Instead of trying to kite survivors into the purple bottle while walking into the yellow yourself for maximum efficiency, the Clown just shits out a yellow bottle and catches up almost instantly. Combine this with the fact that Clown can use rapid brutality, and now he's hitting you, giving himself 5% haste and dropping a bottle right after, making him move 17% faster. The survivor isn't getting anywhere after that, and there isn't like some kind of huge cooldown like for killers like Blight who, hit you and then they have to recover for a bit before they can catch back up. There's barely any skill expression whatsoever with that sort of gameplay, unless you consider throwing the bottle in the right place to be challenging. Clown is going to be even more hated now because he's just going to be catching up to people faster instead of slowing them down and catching up, and that feels just as bad. It's just the same problem, but now you've reversed it by making him better at this. Oh god, I don't understand. I don't understand what they were thinking with the Pyramid Head changes, and I definitely don't understand what they were thinking with this change. It's terrible, however you look at it. There were some other changes, like Pig, who got some buffs, and Pig's a very weak killer, so anytime Pig gets buffed, that's A-okay in my book. I'm not going to complain about that. And then Knight also got some changes, but I don't really play Knight, so I'm kind of afraid to talk about how good or bad the changes are, so I'll leave that to the Knight enjoyers to talk about, but this patch overall is just confusing. I like some things here, but overall it just feels like Behavior was incredibly out of touch with this one, which really surprises me. Overall, I think they've gotten a lot better at listening to the community, but this update just isn't it. Talk to anyone in the community and they'll tell you that this update is incredibly odd and questionable from a lot of different angles. I fully expect some of these changes to be reverted, which is a shame because I imagine they spent a lot of time on them. What a disaster. I guess we'll see when it actually hits live, but I'm disappointed to say the least. I feel like there are a lot more misses here than there are hits, and from Behavior, who's actually gotten a lot of dubs recently, it's little disappointing. I guess we'll see in the coming weeks what Behavior has planned, and maybe they revert some of the more questionable changes and make a lot of people happy by, listening better and trying to understand why people have such a problem with this. But until then, that's it for me, gamers. Have a great day.